not what developed Lexington Responsible want.
So actually the rules put in place are now causing more problems and probably making it even harder to get what they wanted.
They are, and the folks who are doing this don't understand that. I mean, that's the sad part about it, is that they're continuing to put stricter rules in place.
All right, we're talking about all the growth that is going into West Lexington. We're having a lot of retailers, big box stores coming to the market. They're all looking. Can y'all talk about any of the things going on in the West Lexington area by the high school and 378 number 1?
The growth is a natural reaction to the residential growth growing in that direction. It's obvious the Target already under construction on Highway 1 just north of the high school. Every user that you can think of, from Whataburger to Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, are going to all land in front of that particular project. You got the Walmart Supercenter trying to be in the marketplace. It looks like they're going to drop across the street from the high school. That's still not a done deal, but they've put a lot of money in it to get to where they are. You have two major grocery chains that we know of, Kroger and Food Line, that want to be in that market. And all the others will go follow right behind. So you will see that quadrant become the west commercial hub for Lexington.
And I think with that, the irony is that, with those big retailers coming, our ordinances don't allow for apartments or higher density housing now. And it really doesn't make sense for you to have a commercial node without high density housing. I think when you think of a town, you've got to have the populations near those centers that aren't spread out miles and miles away. So it's really counterintuitive to have these great retailers that aren't served by a larger head count. So at the end of the day, if you're worried about traffic and sprawl, then you've got to have density within these new commercial nodes. And so it can be done correctly. It can be planned correctly. They can be designed correctly. You can have amenities and things that you're proud of. I mean, a Class A apartment doesn't really exist in Lexington, but I can assure you that a Class A apartment developer would love to go next to a major big box retailer and all these new amenities. Right. And again, you have to think there's not that, it's easier traffic flow in the 378 corridor, Highway 1 corridor in West Lexington. So traffic really isn't an issue because you've got large roadways with lots of places to go. You're going to have an interchange at Cox Ferry. So I do think ultimately with these new commercial users, you've got to think about residential growth just outside of the 4 units an acre, perhaps 2. It just doesn't cut it. So I think we have to have a thoughtful discussion internally with not only people that don't want growth, but also landowners. And I think landowners their voice is quiet. And we worry about that for a lot of our clients.
Well, a lot of large landowners we've met with, now that the Cox Ferry interchange appears it's going to happen, just talking with them and talking about how they can divide up their property between their heirs or how they can family plan, or maybe it's not the best idea for them to sell their land. Maybe they should do a ground lease or something like that. Can y'all talk to some of the discussions you've had recently?
Yeah, we meet with families all the time. After doing this for 40 years, that's a great thing, because if you let the patriarch or the matriarch die, and then you have the family have to split the property up by the will, always ends up being a family fight. So when a family comes in here and we start meeting with them, we love to see them plan ahead of time. But they get an education like we're doing right now and learn about what's going on and what the consequences are. And 5 years ago, when a family would have come in here, they would have had the option to put apartments on their property. They would have had the options to do a high-density project. They would have had a lot more options than they have today. Unfortunately, the vast majority, and we'll stay on west of Lexington, the vast majority of land west of Lexington, they have one option: 2 residential units an acre. That impacts the value and impacts their planning, because a lot of the landowners see a piece of property sell for $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000, and they think their property's worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000. And it's not when it's limited to 2 residential units an acre. Now, the positive side of that is because Lexington is growing so much, we are catching up with land values in Charleston and in Greenville. And residential tracts that have water and sewer available to them, reasonable topography, are now worth values that none of us would have ever thought would have been achieved 5 years ago.
Right. We're seeing a lot of farmers trade in their land, because inputs are really high, commodity prices are low, but the land has doubled or tripled in value. And they're trading in that land and then moving further out and capitalizing on what they can get now.
That's right. Farmers or landowners.
Right.
Both.
One of the ones that Gregory and I have under contract, the comps didn't do it any justice. The comps would have put it at $550. We list it for much higher than that, and people flying on their helicopter from Greenville to check it out, land on the site, and it's under contract for much more than what you would think it would be based on comps. And we know how to price it, knowing the activity, the developers, the people coming into the market. And we also know that we were able to advise them, hey, there's 3,500 homes coming 1,000 feet away. That's why this property is valuable.
Right. I think we stay kind of at the pulse of what's going, so we can essentially guide a landowner into knowing where the value is. And what we try to do at Southern Visions is push boundaries. We understand that it appears that land values aren't going down in this market because the demand's so high. So we don't look at a comp backwards. We look at more or less like a forward comp, a theoretical comp. And we've been able to push values, and that's really what we're able to do probably better than most, is theoretically say, well, this is probably worth a good bit more than what the comps show, and let's push the market. And I think ultimately that helps the landowner and puts more money in our client's pocket.
And then like the people that have hard corners where there's multiple, lanes of traffic coming together, they might not even want to sell. They could stay in the deal or get a lease or...
Again, planning is not selling your land. Planning, the first question we ask them is, what are you going to do when you sell the land? And you have to think about that first. But planning can be, you can build a McDonald's. It sounds like it's an impossible thing, but if you have the right team, and we've done lots of these, you could, if it's a McDonald's location, why sell the land to the developer when you can do it yourself? And then, of course, that goes all the way down to Dollar Generals, Enterprise Cars, everything. If you have the right piece of property and the right advisors, you should be developing that piece and maximizing the value.
Would they go get a loan to do that, or like what's that whole process?
It just depends on the family dynamics and what. But I mean, any national credit, you can get a loan and support it and have cash flow and profit. And what we call future generational wealth. When we do planning for any family, we're trying to plan for 2 and 3 generations down the road with growing future generational wealth. If you're a landowner and you just sell your piece of property and all the kids go buy red Corvettes, you have not done good planning. So Lake Murray. Lake Murray has been very good to Southern Visions. In 1983, we sold the first lot on Lake Murray, and I'm probably wrong on that date. It might be 85 or 86. But we sold the very first lake lot for $100,000. We broke a barrier back then. Come all the way forward to today, and we have sold lake lots for $1 million. It is amazing what's happened with the value on Lake Murray. In 1985, a really nice house on Lake Murray would have sold for $350,000, $400,000. 3 months ago, we sold a house on Lake Murray for $9,250,000. Just unbelievable change. To get there was not easy. Take any of our lake projects, Panorama, Spence, Secret Cove, you can go way back to all of those. When we started those projects, we were selling lake lots that were way more than the comp. So we were setting the new values on the lake. And we still do that today. Gregory has a great project called Clement Point.
Yeah, I mean, I think Clement Point is kind of our last crown jewel. It adjoins Spence Plantation. It's 9 lots. We have a lot under contract in there that essentially is priced at $1.6 million an acre. So we're pushing boundaries there, and then we have architectural controls. So we build nice communities. We're thoughtfully planning them. We bring in the right utilities. So we're we're able to do things now, which are obviously much smaller scale because of land scarcity. But I think in a few years' time, it won't be uncommon to have most of your new houses in the 4,000 to 6,000 square foot range that are $3.5 to $4 million. I wouldn't see that being out of the norm. Obviously, we would love to have more Spence plantations. There just isn't that much land, so we're sort of shifting our model into smaller, more boutique style neighborhoods. So.